My name is Nick. I'm a sustainability consultant at Recora.
And I'm Tia. I am a senior sustainability consultant at Recora.
Perfect. And today our presentation theme is Don't Think Waste, Think Opportunity. So the objectives that we will be going through, and hopefully you will be able to walk away at the end of this, will be understanding why do we recycle, the environmental impact of recycling through the streams that we will cover, understanding the life cycle of common items that you might use and dispose of, and creative ways to repurpose these materials as well. So, what is Global Recycling Day? Well, Global Recycling Day took place this year on the 18th of March. It's an international awareness day that celebrates the importance of recycling and encourages people, businesses, and governments to treat waste as a valuable resource. The day was first launched in 2018 by the Global Recycling Foundation to highlight the role recycling plays in protecting natural resources and tackling climate change. The aim of it is to get the world thinking about waste differently. As I said, the theme for Global Recycling Day today is Don't Think Waste, Think Opportunity. The focus is on recognising that waste materials can have economic and environmental value when reused or recycled properly. This theme asks you to change how you see waste. It encourages you to see it as a chance to create something new. Plastic, paper, metal, food waste, and old products can become raw materials, have new jobs, be useful products, and encourage cleaner cities. When you recycle, you're not just throwing things away, you're helping to build a future where resources are reused instead of wasted. Today, we're going to discuss how these items are made to help you understand the importance of recycling. So, answering that important question of why do we recycle, we like to give you 5 reasons for why we do this. So when someone asks you the questions of why it's important, you can reply back with this. So the first 2 always go hand in hand. The reduction of waste and the conserving of resources. These always go hand in hand. As we all know, there's a finite amount of materials on this planet. So the more that we can conserve, recycle and reuse these, the better it will be in the long run. The third reason is the fact that it saves energy. Providing an example for this would be that it takes the same amount of energy to make 1 can of Coca-Cola as it does to recycle 20. T will talk about this later, but recycling has basically a 20 times impact on the amount of energy that is saved. Then the legal obligation. You should all be aware about simpler recycling that came into effect on the 31st of March 2025. Basically making sure that it mandated businesses and residential areas must segregate general waste, mixed recycling and food. The legislation came into effect to not just reduce the amount of materials going into general waste, but to also try and keep recycling clean and dry as well by keeping food out of there also. And the last reason, everybody's favourite, is the fact that it saves money. This is because industry-wide, general waste is the most expensive waste stream to dispose of. So the more that you can invest in new waste streams, promoting best practice amongst your staff, the more money you will save by reducing the amount of general waste that is then needed to be collected.
So let's first take a look at how aluminium is made. So here I'm going to explain the carbon impact of recycling through the process of aluminium production, along with its environmental impact. So first we have bauxite mining, where aluminium ore is extracted from the ground. This process has serious environmental effects, including deforestation, loss of wildlife habitats, soil erosion, and pollution of nearby water sources. Next is alumina refining, where bauxite is processed into alumina. So this stage produces a waste product called red mud, which is highly toxic and difficult to store safely. It also uses large amounts of water and energy, and there is also risk of environmental contamination if the waste leaks. After that comes aluminium smelting and ingot casting. So this is where alumina is turned into pure aluminium using electricity. So this is the most energy intensive stage and often relies on fossil fuels, releasing greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So the aluminium is then rolled into sheets, which are used for manufacturing. And next, the sheets are manufactured into cans and other products. So what are the benefits associated with aluminium recycling? So aluminium is highly recyclable. So when you recycle aluminium, you remove the first 3 harmful stages. Aluminium is first broken down into cutlets and washed. It's then rolled into sheets, and this stage still requires energy for heating and processing, but it has a lower environmental impact compared to the earlier stages. Next, the sheets are manufactured into cans and other products, and although this stage uses energy and resources, its impact is smaller. So what impact does this have on emissions? So recycling reduces carbon footprint by 94% compared to producing aluminium from raw materials, while it takes the same amount of energy to recycle 20 cans as it does to make 1 new one. So this helps reduce mining, waste, and overall environmental damage. So overall, whilst aluminium is very useful, its production has significant environmental impacts, making recycling an important solution. So when you next see a can in the wrong bin, think about the intense energy required to make this again. So now we're going to take a look at plastic production and how its use has changed over time along with its environmental impacts. So plastic is made from mainly natural resources such as cellulose, coal, natural gas, salt, and particularly crude oil. So these raw materials are processed and chemically transformed into polymers, which are then shaped into everyday products used across industries like packaging, fashion, construction, and automotive manufacturing. Plastic as we know it today was first invented in 1907, and its use rapidly expanded due to its durability, low cost, and versatility. By 1976, plastic had become the most widely used material in the world, and this growth has continued. And in 2023, the global plastic market was valued at $712 billion, just showing how dependent modern society is on plastic. However, this widespread use comes with serious environmental consequences. So one major issue is that plastic takes around 450 years to decompose. And as a result, if not recycled, plastic waste accumulates in natural environments. And each year, approximately 8 million tons of plastic waste enters the oceans from coastal nations. So to put that into perspective, it's like placing 5 garbage bags of trash on every foot of coastline around the world. In addition, if not recycled, plastics don't fully disappear. They break down into what we call microplastics. So these tiny particles can enter waterways and ecosystems where they can harm wildlife and potentially enter the human food chain. So as we said, plastic is one of the most commonly recycled materials, and its recycling keeps materials in use, conserves resources, and reduces environmental impact. So globally, only about 9% of recyclable plastic is actually recycled. So turning it into a new product is vital. So let's take a look at what plastic can be recycled into in a bit more detail. The first is packaging. So recycled plastic often gets recycled into new packaging, such as bottles and also trays. As an example, drink bottles can be recycled into new food bottles or even food containers. And recycling 1 ton of plastic bottles can save the equivalent of 1,300 litres of oil. Next, we have clothing and textiles. So PET plastic from bottles can be converted into polyester fibres used for clothing, fleeces, and sportswear. And for all you football fans out there, a single football shirt is made from around 8 to 16 plastic bottles. So using recycled polyester saves up to 75% of the energy compared to making new polyester. We then have construction materials. So recycled plastic is used in building products like plastic lumber, decking, fencing, and garden furniture. And as an example, recycled plastic decking boards are durable and weather resistant. So recycled plastic boards can last up to over 25 years, reducing the need for new timber. Finally, we have transport and manufacturing. So recycled plastics used in cars and machinery, including interior dashboards and also insulation. As an example, car dashboards and door panels often contain recycled plastics. And using recycled plastic in automotive parts can cut your CO2 emissions by 30 to 50% compared to new virgin plastics. So according to the United Nations, the world produces over 400 million tons of plastic every year, and of less than 9% of that is recycled. So this highlights the scale of the challenge, but also the opportunity for change. So today, innovation is playing a crucial role in how we tackle some of our biggest environmental issues. In the past, materials like flexible plastics were often seen as difficult or even impossible to recycle. But thanks to new technologies, creative thinking, and collaboration across industries, that is starting to change. So we're now seeing smarter recycling systems, new materials made from waste, and practical solutions that turn previously unusable plastics into valuable resources. So these innovations aren't just improving recycling rates, they're helping us move towards a more circular economy where waste is reduced and materials are kept in use for longer. So before we look at these solutions, it's important to understand the problem. So flexible plastics, also known as soft plastics, are materials that can easily be scrunched, such as plastic bags, food packaging, crisp packets, and also delivery wrapping. They're widely used in everyday life, but they are notoriously difficult to recycle, and that's what we'll explore first. So the main reason is that they're usually made from multiple polymers. So this is where different materials have been bonded together. These materials don't mix well when melted, so they have to be carefully separated. Even a small amount of the wrong plastic can reduce the quality of the entire batch. At recycling facilities, these materials can easily get caught in sorting machinery, causing jams and delays. Despite these challenges, progress is being made, so you'll now often see labels on packaging asking consumers to return flexible plastics to supermarkets, collection points, or they can be collected in a specialist stream via your waste company. So low-grade quality flexible plastics that were once considered unrecyclable are now being transformed into a material called stormboard. And this is produced by a recycling partner in the northwest of England. It can be used in a wide range of applications, from construction to materials to waterproof furniture and waste sorting tables, planters, or even Christmas trees on site. So how is flexible plastic turned into these products? The first stage is collection. So because flexible plastics often get caught in traditional high-speed sorting machinery, they must be collected separately from household recycling, such as supermarket drop-off points, or through specialist providers like the Cora. Next, you have sorting and cleaning. So the collected material is sorted to remove contaminants and washed to remove residues. The next stage is mechanical processing. So the plastic is then shredded, melted, and processed into small reusable plastic pellets. Finally, you have reprocessing. So these pellets are then used to manufacture new products, including new flexible packaging, bin bags, or durable items like park benches and decking. Looking ahead, there are important changes coming. So by April 2027, new legislation will require both households and businesses to recycle flexible plastics. So while flexible plastics have long been a challenge, they are now becoming part of a more circular and sustainable system. So next we are going to look at food waste. So food waste is a major global issue, and it refers to food that is produced but never eaten. So this can happen at any stage, from farms to factories to supermarkets and even at our own homes. So globally, around 33% of all food produced is lost or wasted every year. And in the UK alone, we throw away 9.5 million tonnes of food annually. So to put that into perspective, the UK wastes about 900,000 tonnes of bread every year, which is roughly equivalent to 24 million slices of bread every single day going to waste. So food waste comes from several sources. It starts with raw materials such as fruits, grains, and meat, as well as chemical additives used in production. So nearly 44% of the world's habitable land is used for agriculture, meaning huge amounts of land are used for, well, essentially to produce food that may never be eaten. They're also energy intensive, so the food system currently consumes 30% of the world's available energy, and some of the most energy intensive foods include powders like instant coffee, fried foods like chips, and everyday items like bread. Water use is another key factor, with about 70% of all fresh water being used for agriculture. And all of this leads to massive environmental impacts. So the food industry contributes to 30% of total greenhouse gas emissions. And if food waste were a country, it would be the third biggest emitter of greenhouse gases after the USA and China. What's more is that global meat consumption has doubled since 1961, increasing pressure on land, water, and energy resources. But the good news is that change is possible. Reducing food waste by half could cut emissions equivalent to taking all cars off the road. So tackling food waste isn't just about saving food, it's about protecting the planet. So recycling food waste is important because it helps reduce emissions, saves energy and resources, and can turn waste into useful products like fertilizer or renewable energy. So let's take a look at how waste is recycled and the use of its byproducts. So our food waste is transported to biogen, where it gets processed using anaerobic digestion, or AD. And this is the UK government's preferred method for dealing with food waste because of its environmental benefits, and we have been using it since 2013. Anaerobic digestion is more efficient than composting, which can be slow, expensive, and less effective at recovering energy. In fact, every ton of food waste recycled through anaerobic digestion prevents around 905 kilograms of carbon dioxide emissions that would otherwise be released if the waste went to landfill. So how does the anaerobic digestion process work? So it's a natural biological process where microorganisms break down organic waste in sealed tanks without oxygen. So the waste is kept at around 40 degrees Celsius for 30 days, allowing the bacteria to break it down efficiently. So this process produces two useful outputs. The first is biogas and the second is biofertilizer. The biogas, which is rich in methane, is used to generate renewable electricity through combined heat and power systems. The heat that is created is used within the plant, while the electricity is fed back into the national grid as a clean and renewable energy source. At the biogen plant, enough energy is generated to power around 3,600 homes, and it also produces around 35,000 tons of high-quality liquid biofertilizer each year. So this nutrient-rich biofertilizer is used on farms. It's more sustainable than traditional fertilizers because it requires less energy to produce and reduces reliance on fossil fuels. It's even provided free to local farmers, supporting a circular economy.
Okay, thank you, Tia. She's just covered the waste streams that apply through the simple recycling legislation. I'm now going to discuss in a bit more detail these niche waste streams, which some of you might have already set up, but might not have considered the impact that they'll be having on the environment. So first of all, paper towels. These may seem like a convenient everyday item, but they can have a significant impact on the planet. Most paper towels are made from virgin wood pulp, which means trees are cut down specifically for a product that is designed to be used once and thrown away. This contributes to deforestation, loss of wildlife habitats, and increased carbon emissions from production and transportation. On top of that, the manufacturing process uses large amounts of water and energy, making paper towels a resource-intensive product for such a short-term use. So why can't it go into mixed recycling? Obviously, we've got paper in the title there. I'm going to go through what the paper recycling stream is like, and then compare that to paper towels. So a traditional material in mixed recycling is paper. This process goes is via the recycling of fibers that make them. Paper made from virgin materials contain long, strong fibers that bind tightly together. These fibers are typically used for higher grade products such as premium paper and coffee cups. Each time paper is recycled, usually up to 5 or 7 cycles, the fibers become shorter and weaker during the pulping process, eventually becoming too short to bind effectively. Paper towels are different. They are treated as with a wet strength resin that keeps the fibers bounded and durable, even when exposed to moisture. Historically, this is why paper towels have been considered unrecyclable. The recycling process relies on water to separate fibers during pulping, but the wet strength agent prevents them from breaking down properly, limiting their ability to be recovered. However, in recent years, innovations in the waste sector have led to new technologies such as the paper circle process, which uses controlled sodium hydrochlorate treatment to break down the wet strength agent and release the fibres. Once released, the fibre blend is then heat treated to prepare it for reuse and to eliminate bacteria and viruses. During the following separation stage, the blend is broken down into individual fibres, with up to 98% of them recovered and processed into new paper towels. This new stream can easily be implemented, and any brand of white paper towels used for hand drying can be accepted within the stream. And this can reduce the carbon footprint of paper towels by 40% compared to buying paper towels made from virgin materials. Onto coffee cups next. So then, in a fast moving city fueled by flat whites and cappuccinos, disposable cups are used in minutes and thrown away just as quickly. Around 2.5 billion coffee cups are used every year in the UK. That's 7 million a day and roughly 5,000 coffee cups every minute. As mentioned earlier, when we discussed paper fibres, coffee cups are typically made using long virgin fibres to provide strength and meet hygiene standards. However, the thin inner plastic lining fused to the paper prevents them from being recycled through traditional paper streams. As a result, those high quality virgin fibres are often lost to general waste. And because coffee cups look like paper, they can also contaminate mixed recycling when people throw them into this waste stream. We've partnered with James Cropper to address this challenge. At its specialist mill in Cumbria, they use coffee cups are treated in a process that separates the plastic lining from the paper fibres. The paper component, which makes up around 95% of the cup, can then be pulped and recycled into new paper products, including premium notebooks and even Selfridges bags. The remaining plastic is recovered in the recycling process, ensuring that as much of the material as possible is retained within the system. So next question would then be, what about the coffee cup lids? Are these recyclable? Despite their sturdy, hard plastic feel, most lids use a high street coffee chains are actually plastic code number 6, which is polystyrene. This is not widely recyclable in the traditional waste stream, and it's worth noting that just because a product carries a number inside the recycling triangle, it doesn't mean automatically that it can then be recycled locally. If you are interested, the numbers that can be recycled in the mixed recycling stream are 1, 2, and 5. So while better education and the introduction of dedicated coffee cup collection streams can help divert cups from general waste and reduce contamination and mixed recycling, the most impactful solution is to reduce the need for single-use altogether. Reusable coffee cups offer a far more effective way to lower environmental impact. Many coffee chains now incentivize this by offering discounts to customers who bring their own cup. Something like that is gaining momentum again following the COVID pandemic. Brands such as Circular & Co are helping to close the loop by manufacturing durable, reusable cups from previously discarded paper cups, alongside materials like traceable marine plastic and recycled denim. Demonstrating how circular solutions can both be practical and innovative. So next on to batteries and vapes. Here we're just giving you some headlines from what you've seen about the issue that can happen when disposing of battery vapes, and then even more recently, the fire that took place in Glasgow was from a battery and vape store. So it's become such a frequent occurrence that last year the Environmental Service Association issued a stark warning that battery fires in the waste sector had reached epidemic levels. National figures from the National Fire Chiefs Council and Recycle Your Electricals show that 1,200 waste battery fires occurred in 2023, a 71% increase on the previous year. Data from the Fire Brigade, London Fire Brigade, as shown in this graph, highlights a similar surge in the battery fires across the UK. This rise is driven by multiple factors. Lithium-ion batteries are now found in everything from vapes and toys to everyday electricals and even seasonal decorations. yet only a quarter of councils offer a curbside battery collection, meaning most households must rely on supermarket drop-off points funded through producer compliance schemes. The ESA has described this system as inadequate, arguing that it leaves consumers without convenient recycling options and limits the effectiveness of public awareness campaigns. As a result, surveys suggest that 1 in 5 people still dispose of batteries in general waste despite the clear fire risk. Interestingly, waste firms have also suggested that the single-use vape ban, which came into effect in June 25, may be fueling a new hazard as vapes with remaining charge are being disposed of, what we mean to the general waste bin. So when batteries and vapes are misplaced into general waste or DMR, they pose a serious fire risk if punctured in our vehicles or at our facility. Once ignited, they can quickly spread amongst the dry paper and card that it's being disposed with. This poses a health and safety risk for our drivers, waste operatives, but also the general public. So it's important to ask yourself how your batteries are being collected. It's important that you and your staff know where these can be disposed. Battery and toner collections can be arranged through your account manager or our help desk. Our batteries that we collect are recycled through EcoBats, where they're safely collected, broken down and processed to recover valuable materials like lead and lithium, which can then be refined and used to manufacture new batteries and other products. Recora sends toner cartridges to ink and toner recycling in Milton Keynes, where they are either refurbished and refilled for reuse or fully broken down into raw materials to be recycled into new products, ensuring nothing goes to waste.
So how can you ensure that you're recycling correctly? So Recora offer a range of engagement events that help you reduce your contamination rates and boost your recycling rates. So effective recycling is crucial for environmental sustainability, but existing bin infrastructure is often inadequate or falls short. So our floor walks help to assess current recycling processes and practices and suggest targeted enhancement for your businesses. So thinking about centralized bin stations, clear color coded signage alongside tinted sacks can reduce mixed waste disposal by ensuring items are diverted into their designated waste stream. Our recycling workshops, Lunch and Learns, can help our customers understand the journey of your waste, including what can and can't go in each waste stream, and tips and tricks on how to reduce contamination. Finally, if you want to help make a difference in your own local community, you can join us for one of our social value events. So we have beach cleans to help clear up the plastic and water pollution problem, or even at Borough Market, you can stop surplus food from going to waste and provide it to those in need. So if you are interested in some of our engagement events, please contact your account manager or sustainability consultant.
So thank you for joining us for this Global Recycling Day presentation that we've pieced together. I really hope you all found it quite useful. To continue this momentum going, it would be great if people could think of a pledge that they will make, that they will try and carry forward, not just from a recycling perspective, but more that reuse. So whether you want to borrow the idea of basically getting one of these reusable coffee cups and reducing your impact through single-use coffee cups, something along those lines would be great. If you have any ideas or something that you're using at the moment, please do put it in the chat so that we can share those as well. And yeah, thank you for joining, everybody. Are there any questions that we can answer? I think, again, if these will be in the chat, that would be great.
Yes, we've got a few slides. Yes, the slides can be shared afterwards, and we will also upload them onto our YouTube channel where you can rewatch this whole webinar again.
Thank you, guys.
Great.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate that. How do we recycle paper towels? So, sorry if I haven't answered that question. So basically, paper towels would be recycled through a disposal point in the in the toilet areas. This is where we are looking to capture this material. So once you've washed your hands, dry them with the paper towels. This would then be put into the bin where it will be one of our paper towel sacks. Your cleaning team will then collect this, bring this down to the loading bay, and it will then be collected by us there. So all that you need to do is make sure that you've got this paper towel and you're putting it into the sack there.
And we can't accept paper towels from kitchen area or tea point areas due to the contamination, because if there's any additional chemicals added on top or any food or liquid residue other than water, we won't be able to accept it. So it makes a really great use for laboratory areas. We've actually seen up to 10% increases in recycling rates when we've installed paper towels at new buildings.
Thank you, guys. Do you want me to do that one?
Yeah.
Sure. So, unknown user says, can you please explain what can go into mixed recycling, and is it a big problem if staff put the wrong thing in the recycling bin in the office? So the items that are accepted in mixed recycling are paper, cans, hard plastic, cardboard, and cartons. Your question of, is it a big problem if staff put them in the wrong bin? So first of all, if any of these are being filtered into the general waste, that means two things. That means that we are losing the ability to recycle these products, and it means that you are increasing the amount of general waste that you will see in your data. Reframing that question as putting the wrong things in this bin, so putting in contaminated paper towels or food, yes, this is a problem because you are basically damaging the materials that we are then looking to capture, bring back to our facility and recycle. So as an example, if food gets on paper, you've damaged that paper and you have reduced its life cycle to then be recycled further.
So what we say with mixed recycling is, for an example, like a yogurt pot, as long as you can hold it over your head and nothing falls out, it's okay to go into the mixed recycling. What we don't want to see is heavily contaminated recycling, because if food or liquid residue other than water gets onto fibre, it's really difficult to recycle. At our waste facility, if we do get contaminated fibre, we'll try and take it out. It could potentially be sent to be made into sort of low grade quality tissue paper, but in most cases it has to be sent to general waste. So if you can keep your recycling clean as much as you can when you're placing it into the mixed recycling, we can recycle as much of this as possible. We got a really interesting question about shredded paper.
There you go.
So it's, how do you recycle shredded paper? My council says that I have to put it in the general waste. Yeah, so the reason why shredded paper has to go into general waste is because at every waste facility in the UK, there's something known as a waste screen. So anything smaller than a Post-it note will essentially fall through this waste screen, and this is done to get rid of any contaminants that may have fallen through the mixed recycling sack. So things like food or bits of glass. What happens with shredded paper is that will fall through the waste screen and it will end up as general waste. And also with all machinery and all the wind going into our facility, the shredded paper will just be blown everywhere. So I'm not sure about council, but for a business like Recora, if you contact your account manager, we should be able to collect shredded paper and set up a service for you.
So the question of how do you collect coffee cups? Essentially the same solution for the paper towels. You will have a designated disposal point for these coffee cups. The logic behind that is putting these in the most opportune places for people to then be able to dispose of them on their way into the office, on their way out of the building, making sure that these bins are in locations where someone can then easily dispose of it and know that they're putting it into that single container. Exact same logic. The cleaning team will then come and collect these sacks, bring it down to the loading bay, and then we will collect it from there.
Next one. I didn't think that cartons could be put in the dry mix recycling. I think they have their own stream. So they weren't previously allowed in the mixed recycling, but now we obviously can accept them in, and that should be a change for everyone across the UK. They're very easy to pull out of the waste facility, and they're baled in their own separate waste stream and sent to a reprocessor where they get soaked in a solution to remove that sort of plastic and fibre layer and turned into new products.
Yeah, this came as part of the new legislation. The simpler recycling legislation mandated that it had to be accepted. So we were then quick to react to this. We started to accept cartons in our mixed recycling. I think about 6 months before the legislation change came into place, so we were fully prepared for it.
Let's see if we have any more questions. Can food packaging be rinsed to put in recycling bins, or does it need to be thoroughly washed to get rid of the oils and things? So what we usually say is, if you take chicken, for example, you obviously have the flexible plastic film. If you remove that off and place that in the general waste, and then with the hard rigid plastic, like I said, there is usually a bit of like residue from the leftover chicken. If you could sort of give that a little bit of a wash, just rinse that out, and then that's ready to be placed into the mixed recycling bin.
Similar sort of lines to that, someone saying, what about takeaway containers? Again, it's that exact logic that Tia has laid out there, trying to separate the components that might be general waste or mixed recycling, and then filtering that into the correct bin. It's also up to you to basically understand what material packages you're getting, whether one chain provides you packaging that's then very clearly cardboard and it's not contaminated, you can put that into the mixed recycling bin, or whether it's made of a packaging that's then got that plastic lining on there. This is something that you'll see that and go, okay, this is then destined for the general waste bin instead. So it's not uniform across the different takeaway places that you'll be getting, but hopefully you're armed with that knowledge to understand what you have there and then put that into the correct bin. And
what you'll also notice is a lot of supermarkets with black plastic have shifted away from black to more sort of red and white packaging, and in some cases Tesco's and Sainsbury's have also banned black packaging or black plastic. The reason why is because at waste facilities they use near infrared technology to sort of identify the plastic and send it in the right direction. As the conveyor belt is obviously black, with black plastic it doesn't always pick the item up, so manual sorters will pull the black plastic out. But what essentially is the best way forward is to sort of find a company that moves away from that plastic packaging to something that is more clear.
We have, is plastic tape a problem when recycling cardboard? No, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think that you have the responsibility on you to make sure that you remove every bit of plastic from there when going in there. When going into the containers, some places will have their own cardboard waste stream, where there will be lots of retailers getting deliveries every day, and then these of course are wrapped up for protection and to keep them sealed. What we ask is that all the items are removed, the cardboard is then flat packed and then placed into the cardboard container there. Someone's saying that they currently have a Tetra Pak waste stream. Exactly, this will be something that I believe you've had in place for quite a while now. And we definitely appreciate the fact that you've kept that material out of general waste when it wasn't legislation. With this now, these can then be placed into the mixed recycling bin.
So we've got a question. Does the food packaging need to be properly washed, or is it washed anyway at the recycling facility? Wondering whether if it's washed anyway, is it worth saving the water, or if it needs to be cleaned when put into the recycling bin. We always say if you can clean it, that is best practice. The reason why is when we bale our sort of plastic at our waste facility, it has to be 98% contaminant free. We send it over to a reprocessor who do have their own sort of washing facility. But essentially, like we said previously, if a bit of that sort of residue other than liquid, like water, for example, gets on a piece of fiber, then that fiber then usually ends up in the general waste. So if you do wash it out and put it into the mixed recycling, you're saving that fiber from ending up in general waste where it can get recycled afterwards.
Giving you a more practical example of what we're looking to address with the materials that are going into the mixed recycling. So say you have finished your lunch and there is food residue in there, so you still have some rice left over. When you're now approaching the bins, the food must be segregated into the food bin that you have. After this, when you've got your container and you're looking at that and it still has some residue on there, as long as, like Tia said, you can hold that upside down and nothing falls out, then that is okay to go into our mixed recycling bin. It is anything that is excessive, it's anything that's left over. This is why you now have the food waste stream, so it's not just going into the general waste. You can then capture those materials that way. But we understand, we always get questions about the contamination levels of mixed recycling, of packaging that you've then had for your lunch, and what's considered acceptable. this is why you've got the food waste stream now in place to put all the contaminants in there. As long as they're not flowing, you can put that into the mixed recycling.
So we've got a great question from Margaret. Is there a limit to how often plastic can be recycled? Yes, so plastic can only be recycled 2 to 3 times before it can't be properly recycled because it loses quality over time. So what we do recommend is, as with common practice, if you are buying that single-use plastic water bottle, do place it into the mixed recycling so it can be recycled. But the best way moving forward is for you to have a reusable cup.
Okay, we've pretty much answered that one. Thank you, guys.
And feel free to also send us through any extra questions that we haven't yet answered today, or if you did have any more questions, you could pop them over to your sustainability consultant or even your account manager, and we will happily answer those for you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I don't know if anyone's thought of a pledge that they might be able to put in. Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Nick and I will be happy to share our pledges. So my pledge would be, I'm notoriously known for going to coffee shops. And although we do have a coffee cup waste stream in our building at Recora, I could bring in my own reusable coffee cup.
Okay, yeah, you've stolen mine. My one would be to, my one would be to get less meal deals and takeaways for lunches. I am going out and purchasing these on a fairly regular occasion, which then means I'm looking to at least segregate these materials, the bottle into the mixed recycling, separating the cardboard from the sandwich I've had, putting that in there, and the rest of it in general waste. If I can then go and make more meals at home, bring them in the Tupperware, and then clean that out, it means I'm reducing the impact that I'm having on the waste streams as well.
Brilliant. So like we said, thank you everyone for joining the webinar. And again, if you have any more questions, do feel free to pop them over. And thank you, Tom, for sharing your pledge. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.